All right. I think we can kick off this. Oh, as I said that, we have one more person. Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar. On today's session, we're going to be going over Operations Tour Series screen. Now, before I kick off this webinar, I just want to do a few house cleaning items. One is that this session is being recorded. Number two is that the format of this webinar, as normal, I go walk through the screen, and then towards the tail end of the webinar, we will open up for Q&A. Okay, so what we're going to go through right now on this webinar is going to be, we're going to review our knowledge base on some of the articles that we have written to support the tour series screen. And we're going to define some of the requirements for a tour and tour series screen to work and function properly. And then we're going to start reviewing the overview of the tour series screen, some of the design changes and some of the features and functionalities. And we're going to dive into basically what do we view, how do we search, customize certain things, and little tips and tricks that we're going to go through this. Okay. So that being said, let me escape out of this real quickly. And let's open up our demo site. Okay. So in order to, okay, so let's go ahead and dive into our knowledge base. Now, in order to access our knowledge base, the first thing you have to do is go to the question mark on the top right corner and click on the Knowledge Center. And in here, as we have indicated in the past, there are a number of articles, documentation to help you understand how some of the screens work, some of the processes behind it, and we support all our webinars on this Knowledge Center also. But I have written up one specifically for Operations Tour Series screen, and I just want to kind of go ahead and review that with you guys briefly. So in order to get to that, you can go to the articles, and under Operations menu, you can click on the Operations. Or if you just want to go directly to it, on the top right corner, we have a quick search option in here where you can start typing in the screen that you wish to see, right? And then there are a number of articles that holds those keywords in there, okay? So we can go into the Operations Tour Series screen right here. And this is the article that we had written up. Now, these articles basically tells you what the main core functionality behind the screen is. That's one thing. And also we have noted in here some of the pre-requirements for the screen to work and how it works, okay? So for the tour series screen to work in general, right, we have to have a tour ID, right, in the product header, for example, right? Those of you that are familiar with this, in the product header, you can enter in a tour ID. Now, if you want to know more about how to set up tour IDs, there's also another article called Setting Up Tour IDs, and we can go ahead and open that up. And then there's step-by-step instructions on how to go ahead and add tour IDs. Okay. Now, the other area that we have here is called the, oh, sorry about that. The other article that we have written up for the tour series screen to work is the dates and prices in the product details. So if you wish to get to that, we can click on that, and then we have a process and a documentation on how to create dates and prices and how this whole process works. Last but not least, the inventory management item that is a requirement for the tour series screen to work also. And we have an article about that as well, where you can see step-by-step instructions, and each article has its own pre-requirements in order to create an inventory management item. You have to have a tour ID, dates and prices, for example, so everything is nested appropriately in that regard, okay? So those are the articles that are related to it, and this documentation basically walks you through the steps on how the screens work, how the tour codes work, how do we search by a number of different parameters, different views of the screen, but those are the areas that we're going to be diving into today. So in order to get to the tour series screen right now, the first thing that we have to do is go over to the operations menu, go over to Tours and click on Tour Series screen. Now, just the overall navigation of the screen, on the left-hand panel, we have our search parameters. We have basically our grouping system in here, okay? And then under the username, we have a number of settings and options that we can go ahead and customize the screen as we need to. Now, in order to go ahead and search for items in the screen, you can simply start typing in the tour code field, the tour ID that you have. For example, in this scenario, I will start typing in IE BST, which is Best of Ireland, or I can start typing in Best of Ireland, and as you can see, the system starts returning those results for me. Now, if I just entered in the tour ID and clicked on search, the system would return all the departures that we have created for this specific tour. Now, if I want to go ahead and narrow this down further to a specific departure, what I have to do is enter in colon, and then the system will start spitting out the rest of the results, the departures for that, for this tour. Now, you can start typing in the departure date if you wanted to. Type in the month, and then the date, and then, oops, and then you would have your results returning as follows. When you click on search, the results return would be as follows, okay? Now, on the other search options that we have is you can narrow down your results based on market codes, and then you have date ranges and different sales statuses of the product and the display statuses. Now, when we're looking at the view of the return results that we have in here, on this departure, you can see your tour code in here. You have any guide assignments that would be reflected in this section with a guide. You have your brand. If you're a multi-brand instance, you can see different brands with different products if you wanted to go ahead and view those. You can see the sales statuses, right? And the sales statuses can be updated right from the screen, and also just like we had in the past. The same idea goes for the display status. Now, this cell here basically is a representation of how many total number of seats that we are allowing on this departure, right? And how many are available based on number of passengers sold. So this is a reflection of your inventory records showing you the details. If you're holding any space for any custom groups or special occasion, that information could be displayed in here too. Now, on top of that, we have also introduced basically the number of type of rooms that are sold per single, double, or triple, and they're reflected accordingly in here. Now, percentages sold basically is an average percent of per product. Okay, what is it? How many passengers we have sold, and you have your total percentage is sold on this top row. Okay. Now, the information that is displayed in this section is a representation of the departure, the service date when you're on that city, and then you have your city code and number of passengers sold on each city. So in this scenario, for example, if we're looking at Dublin, for the 7-day program, we have sold 8 passengers. For the 9-day Ireland, we have sold 14, and in total, on February 8th in Dublin, we have 22 passengers in total. And then the itinerary details and their departure dates, depending on the duration of your programs that you offer on a tour series, right? You have it displayed as follows. Okay. Now, on the tour series screen, we also have a number of different views. These views are what we call full view, product view, and the tour view. So full view is a representation of all your product codes. And if there drills down even further, if you had multi-branded instances where you offer one product in brand A and another product in brand B, and that would show up in this section in here. Now, if you're a single brand instance, right, this may look a little bit confusing. So we have this product view screen where it basically just collapses, gets rid of the brand displays in here, and then it gives you a breakdown of all those items, all those products that you have in this section, and gives you a nicer, clean view in here. Now, if you had a lot of results and you just want to see overall tour view, right, you can just simply click on the tour view, and let's go ahead and do this here. Let's show a little bit more details in this section. So this is a representation of departure by departure, not showing anything in here, and giving you the total of passengers sold on each departure on a tour ID, tour code level. Okay. So let's go back to 2023-0206 is our departure. Now, the next area that I want to kind of talk about on the tour series screen, guys, is some of the shortcuts that we have. So if you clicked on the hyperlink onto the product code in here, the product name, it would take you to the product screen. On top of that, we have the same standard navigational menus and options. We can drill down and get more details about the specific departures or tours. So when we're looking at the tour series list, this basically is a representation of this information in here. Now, if you clicked on reservation list in this section, you have a number of reservations that are booked, right, from a high level, and it tells you basically the reservation number, which product that they booked, the passenger lead name, whether they're active or code bookings, or which brand that they're associated with. If you were a multi-brand and if you had a long list, right, there are a number of grouping options in here too. You can go ahead and break these down. For example, when I break it down by product code, it tells me the 7-day and the 9-day program in this section. You can always do a quick search on our grids, as we know already, and export this data as intended. So let's say if I want to do Emily, as I type in Emily, you can see that Emily word, the name is narrowed down on these results. And then when I click on export, the system will go ahead and throw that into an Excel spreadsheet for you. The other area, the other menu option that we have is the master tour list. So we have a number of information that we pull in here, right? This is what we call our default list. It gives you an overall view of all the passengers that are on this departure. So you have your little hyperlinks to jump onto the reservation if you needed to see more details. But it gives you the title, last name, first name, the brand that they booked under, what type of room, any type of preferences, any comments that they have added, what products that they have pulled up, they have booked. And then we also provide other information such as date of birth, high-level information. If they had any flights booked, it will show you the city and city out, and dates and the location on the manifest in this section. Now, we do have also other lists here called hotel lists. So this gives you a breakdown of all the hotels that are used and who's booking which property, for example, right? So we have the Clarny Hotel, the Harbor Hotel, the Clayton, you know, whatever properties is basically a list of those hotels on that departure. We also have the optional list, which gives you a breakdown of if any optionals were booked. It would give you a list of those items that passengers booked, and it tells you basically the pickup and drop-off details of those optionals. Same idea goes for the transfer lists. It'll tell you their transfers, pickup, drop-off details, and so on. Okay. Now, the next area that I want to kind of dive into is the inventory screen. One big difference compared to the net application is that the inventory records displayed on the tour series is now updatable right from this screen. So in the past, in the net application, you had to go ahead and jump onto a separate screen to update these records. So what we have done on this screen is the fact that you can go ahead and update the allotted value right on the screen in here. So you can go ahead and change individual cells, departures if you wanted to, the dates of the inventory block, click on save, and that information would be saved accordingly. On top of that, you have multi row update functionality, right? So you can select multiple rows if you want to go ahead and update. Click on the column header and go through our update of that block code process. So we can change the allotted, and then we can insert a note to indicate why we are increasing the allotment, right? So we can say that we received more rooms. You can continue working on this grid if you wish to do. If you want to go ahead and update more data, right? You can click on Save Later, and allows you to continue. And then you can update individual cells if you want to, right? Or you can do, again, multi-value updates if you ever needed to. So we can change it to, for example, closed, and then click on Save. The information would save automatically for the prior changes that you had made, or you can continue to click on Save Later. And then once you click on Save on the bottom left, the system would go ahead and update all those records for you. If you want to revert those changes, you click on Cancel, and everything will be reverted back to its original state. Now, we do have other groupings in here too, right? So we have grouping by supplier, by block code. So if you had a property where you used different block codes for different room types, you can see it that way easier. We can group things by service type, meaning that if you were holding any allocation for, let's say, an excursion versus hotels, you can see that, or based on the different states of the blocks, meaning that's something that is open versus closed. You can group these items and see those details as needed. Again, we have the quick search option and the export functionality on the screen as well. Now we're going to go ahead and jump on to custom tour reports and the tour reports. So when we're looking at the custom tour reports, these are basically works exactly as we had in the net application. When you click on this either option in here, one of these options, the system will go ahead and open up a corresponding report, fill in the details for that specific, the parameters, and run the report for you. And as you can see, the report just ran. It just because it took me from the tour series screen into the report viewer for that, pulled up the appropriate report, fill in the parameter, and ran that report for me. When it comes to the communication, this is the screen where we can go ahead and jump onto the operations history screen, and then we can go ahead and click on this, which basically fills in the tour code for you and displays all the corresponding communication about your specific departure. So if you had any supplier messages sent out, any communication that was sent out, this basically takes you to the ops history screen. Tour confirmation messages is a process that takes you to the ops messaging screen, where you have basically templates to send out requests ahead of time in the beginning of the season to your departures in order to gain some space. There are a number of templates that we have in here, but this is basically a shortcut. It seems like we don't have one on our demo site right now, but these are basically templates that tells you for these number of departures, we have, these services, and I need, 20 seats on this departure, for example. Okay, so it's basically templates that we can set up and take you to the messaging screen as intended. On the jump to section, we have areas called tour manifests, which takes us is a shortcut to the operations confirm reservation screen, where the system would go ahead and pass parameters such as search by passenger, and you can go ahead and run lists basically according to the package item. So when we do this, then the system will retrieve all the information. It's a different way of extracting data specific to this departure and find those details as needed. Pricing history is a screen that would take us to the product management price history screen. One of the things that we introduce in our product application in Next platform is that we keep track of anytime something is updated in the dates and prices screen. So if a price went from, let's say, $11.99 to $12.99, we keep track of all those historical records and see day by day where we are with those. So in this scenario, for example, it started with, let's a certain price, and then it basically, the current price is $14.29, but it started off with $7.99, and then we have all these records behind it. And then you can see all the other details that are updated behind the scenes, which created the records, and so on. We have a section called tasks, which allows me to go ahead and create tasks specific to a departure. So in this process is pretty straightforward. You can click on add a row, where you can go ahead and create a task for a specific date as a reminder. So for example, I have seen customers use this functionality to say that, okay, review this departure and close out as needed, right? So this, we can create basically an open task for a specific date. So I can put this for, let's say, the 25th of January, and I can assign it to users. So I can assign it to myself, but I can also assign it to Betsy and create basically a task that would generate reminders on our calendars for the next day. So when I'm looking at the calendar right now, there's a task on my calendar that I can go ahead and jump to and see what it's related to. And then I can either close that and take the appropriate action as needed. You do have some functionality to update it right from the screen too. So you can edit, delete, or close a task as intended. So I can go ahead and close this task, and the task will be marked as closed, means an action has been taken behind it. The guide section is basically a representation of the guide details, if any other details were embedded in here. So it's basically a quick view of how the guides screen work. There would be usually a shortcut to either the guide screen or a specific report. That's something to be determined that we will be taking action on. So that being said, this is basically the navigation menu that we have on the tour series screen. Now, one last thing I wanted to show you guys on this demo, but it seems like we're having a little bit of a technical problem is what we call our grid settings. Those of you familiar with our next application, in our application, anytime that we have some sort of a grid, we have options to go ahead and move the columns and remove the columns that we wish to see first, so they can be customized. So for example, for some reason, if I ever wanted to see the website as the first column on a certain screen, right, when I click on save, that information would be displayed in this section as follows. Now that would be specific to my own user preference, where, let's say Betsy or Rachel or Kim, whoever joins these calls, could have their own preferences and arrange the columns as intended. Now, we have introduced this functionality on the tour series screen too, where you can go ahead and arrange the columns in the format that you wish to have. So when you click on the tour series grid settings, you would have a similar pop-up where you can uncheck or move, arrange the columns in the fashion that you want. And these grid settings are basically in almost all of our sections as well. So when we're looking at, for example, the reservation list, if I wanted to go ahead and update those sections, I would click on this section, and then I can arrange the columns or remove the information that I do not wish to see in this section. Same idea goes for the tour series. So if you didn't want to see, let's say, the block cap type or the asset ID, you could easily go ahead and go to the inventory grid settings, and then you would be able to go ahead and remove and arrange the columns as intended. That being said, I think that pretty much concludes my demo about the operations tour series screen. I am open to some questions via chat if you guys have any questions, comments on these screens. Okay, I see some questions being typed up. Uh, Hi, Alex. So the comment and the question is, nice demo. Thank you, Alex. Do you have recording of this demo for us to study later? Yes, absolutely. Following this session, I will be providing the link for the demo where you can download it. And we'll be hosting actually on YouTube also on our knowledge base. So I will send the details about that. Question with regards to updating the sales and display statuses. Is there a way to multi-select multiple date and multiple product codes at once? Yes. So we can go ahead and use the control key, Kieran. So we can go ahead and update, for example, multiple rows with the control key on our keyboard. Let's go to the full view here. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's do control, control, control. And then I can update the sales status via mass update functionality in here. So if I want to go ahead and mark this as closed, as you can see, since I selected multiple rows in here, once I clicked on the sales update status via mass update, it'll go ahead and do that. And then you can go ahead and save those details with this button, and that'll mark it as closed for sale. And the same goes for the display status as well. All right, so Kimberly, hi. Sometimes we offer quad accommodations, mostly for US tours. Is this something that will be added to the tour series page? I notice it shows single, double, and triple. Yes, Kimberly, I think this is where we're open to discussion about what else we can display in here. So that would be one of our takeaways to get it as a feedback and see how we can actually make this a little bit more functional. So we're open to discussions about that. Roy, on the custom tour reports list, where does the list get populated from? Is it the operations report from the report viewer? Yes, the custom report list is the same idea, Roy. It basically directs you, if I'm understanding the question correctly, it'll take you to the custom report folder and provide those details and run that report for you. Okay, so Rachel, getting back to you. Kim, okay. So thank you. Also, the custom tour reports doesn't currently show on the tour series page. Is that supposed to be there, or do we need to request it? Kimberly, is this on your own instance, or is this something that is you're seeing right now? Because if it is on your own instance, the custom reports should show. If it doesn't, then we can definitely look into adding it as an option in here if it's missing for some reason. It could be just a configuration issue. Okay, so you only see the tour reports. Okay. All right, so that could be a takeaway for us to review and get back to you on that. We'll definitely look at that. Good questions. Karen is asking. Do we have the capability to close particular room types for sale from the tour series screen, or does this need to be done from the product? So when you say, Kieran, when you're talking about the room types, if you have, depends on how you built your product, right? But you would be able to go ahead and control this probably via per block code. So if you're built your tours with, we currently do not build separate inventory from the room types. Depends then again, right? So Kieran, if you built your products based on different room types also, then that would be possible. Now, if you're not using the block, then that is something that we can review a little bit more. If you want to go ahead and close a specific room type, then you may want to go to the supplier services screen to handle, or so we close the specific price item for sale. Yes, that's probably the best direction if you don't have any block codes to say available, saying that this room category is no longer available. And if you're not using the block codes, if you were using the block codes, you would close it in here. It would be much easier. But then you would be able to go ahead and do that either. There are a number of ways to handle that, either in the product details or on the supplier service level too. Welcome. Roy has a question. When the user updates the columns to display on the manifest, is that saved just for that session, or does it save it for later? So when you arrange the columns for, let's say, the inventory screen, it is specific to that user, not only that session, but so Roy, if you were to go ahead and update the columns in the way that you wanted on the inventory view, that arrangement will stay with your own user preference. So if I logged in as admin, I have my own preferences, and that'll travel with me until next time I make a change. So you will have your own preferences in the way that you need to do it. Okay, we can take some more questions if like. Okay, well, if there are no other questions, we can take some questions offline. Also, following the session, you will have some communication about some of the questions that we had on the session, and we will also provide you a link with the recording on to review this session at a later time. And if you guys don't have any more questions, I just want to say thank you, everyone, for joining, and appreciate your time and your questions. And that concludes our session. Okay, thanks, everyone.